In the previous video, we went through what different market structures are like and how do these market structure, how have these market structure come along. In this video, we will learn about transition of economies. What happens when a market moves from one type to the other, and what are the consequences. Now, we need to understand in the recent history, most of our transitions are moved from command to market. We have very few examples of movement from market to command. So in your book, you will mainly study about transition from command to market, and that's what we'll try to focus. So when a market moves from command to a free market, I'll just simply call market economy as free market, so that it's easier to understand and not confusing. So when market moves from command to free, government tries to implement 5 main things. So why do they do that? You don't need to know that, but you need to know technically, like, why are they doing these things. Just understand them as facts. So you don't need to know technical details of why do governments have to implement these changes. Just understand them as facts. The first thing is that they'll try to liberalize the economy. Liberalize the economy. Liberalize the economy means moving the ownership from public to private sector, moving the ownership from government to individual, ownership of land, ownership of rights, ownership of different types of ownership, movement from a government to individual. The second is about banking reforms. Banking system in command economies are very different from that in free market economies. So banking reforms are essential. Third are legal reforms, workers' right and things like that, legal reforms. The fourth is about protectionism. In command economy, we tend to have large protectionistic laws. Protectionistic laws means they prevent imports. They prevent imports from other countries to protect their own protect their own industries within the country. So reducing protectionistic laws is one of the factors that we have to implement if we want to move from command to free market. The fifth and the last one is about liberalizing economy, banking, legal, protectionism, and the last one remaining, I think, is about privatization. So selling off government companies to private ownership. Now, of course, as I've mentioned in my previous videos, we don't have any example in real life of an economy which is completely free. It is completely based upon theoretical market economy, theoretical free economy. Neither do we have any example of any economy in the world which is completely command. Most economies in the world are mixed. So when you study about transition, when you study about command and free market economies, try to understand them as a theoretical concept rather than something that is happening in real life. So the recent examples of command economies are mostly ex-Soviet state. So this is Russia, and all of these other states they used to be part of the Soviet Union, but they are no longer part of the Soviet Union. We call these economies, most of these economies have transitioned from command to market, or they are in the process of doing that. But the second thing you need to know for this topic, and the final thing you need to know about this topic, is what happens when countries try to transition from one form to the other. Now, these are the 5 things that have to be implemented for transition to be complete, for transition to be done properly. But what are the consequences? What can happen as a result? Well, there are many things that can happen as a result. The first thing that will happen is large-scale unemployment. When you move from command to market, command to free, you are giving ownership to private individuals who will try to maximize profit. And when they try to maximize profit, they will lay off all workers who are unessential, who are not needed, who are not used as well. So you will have large-scale unemployment, which was seen from these countries when Soviet Union collapsed. There was extreme large-scale unemployment from all of these countries. The second thing which is common is you will have civil unrest. Of course, when you have large-scale unemployment, people will protest. There will be a civil breakdown, and riots, protest will be common. So that's pretty much expected. The third thing is about recession. The third most common thing that will happen is recession. The whole economy will go into a slump for a while because there are so many changes happening legally and socially. The economy goes into a slump. Now again, all of these are theoretical consequences. In reality, all economies are different. They all start differently and they all are differently in geographically, socially, culturally. So these are some generic description of what usually happens, but they don't necessarily mean it will always happen this way. In some cases, for example, in case of Turkmenistan, which is over here, Turkmenistan is over here, this is Turkmenistan, right? In case of Turkmenistan, we still have we still have an economy which is command based, means you still have dictatorship, you still have large element of the economy which is not free. Likewise, you have other countries such as Ukraine who are involved in conflicts, who are involved in warfare, and they can't really move from one form to the other. And you have other states which are on their way but not quite there, right? For example, you have Uzbekistan and Tajikistan. They are not command economies as such, but they're not free either. A lot of it is moved from command to free, but they're still in the process. The idea is that all economies are different. So when you study about transition economies in the book, learn them as a theoretical concept rather than something that is applied or done in real life. You don't need to know of any example from market to command because it's no longer, we don't really study it because there are very few examples in recent history. I specifically chose not to talk about China in this video is because Chinese economy is very unique in the sense that on surface, on the face value, they sound like a command economy, but if you study the economy in detail, in depth, you understand that large chunk of it, big elements of it is actually not command economy. It is, it rules from the free market system. So it's unique in that sense. You don't need to know any examples from market to command transition because we don't have any example in recent history, so that's something you have to worry about. In your examination, all you need to know is about what are the things countries need to do to transition from command to normal command to free market, and what can happen as a consequence. Three things can happen: unemployment, unrest, and recession. And in your evaluation, you can talk about, well, all economies are unique and they all have their own personal issues. We can't have a generic description, but we can have some general trends that we can trace or we can notify. And hopefully this was a very simple, straightforward video. If you have any questions, feel free to ask.